We are live for Friday Night Tech Talk. Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's had a good week. I've had a pretty good week. And I hope wherever you are, it's not too cold. Is my phone doing what it always does? Okay. I hope it's not too cold wherever you are in the world. And yesterday it was around close to 70 around here. Today we never got above the low 40s. So we're in that iffy weather around here just before spring. Anyway, I'm glad for who was ever here. Eleanor was the first one in. She said hello to everybody, wished everybody a great weekend. And then Ren's got to work early, so he got in early too. So I don't know who else is there. If you're there and you want to post a comment, so I'll know where you are. And if you haven't been here before, welcome. And if you post a comment, just let me know where in the world you're watching. It's every where I go over some of the tech stories from the past week. Most weeks it's about phones, but not much about phones this week. Most of you know that I have the Galaxy S22 Plus on order. Still only a few weeks before I get that because I ordered it from the Samsung US website. And according to them, I ordered a custom color. So that takes a few weeks to arrive. A lot of us are waiting for those. So as always, I will share my screen showing you where the show notes are. Why is my screen flipping like that? Let's try it again. Okay, share screen. Okay, so you'll find the notes at mobilegeezer.com. If you click on the very first, it's mobilegeezer.wordpress.com. If you click on the very first story, that's today's date, it'll pull up the show notes just for tonight. So let's stop sharing that. Putting usual stuff back. You usually have it. Okay. So we're going to move on to our first story of the day. Like I said, we're not very phone heavy this week, but the first story does have to do with the Galaxy S22 phones. Last week I was having trouble sharing the screen when I went to read a view. That may have been user error. We'll find out in a minute. So this first story is from The Verge. Samsung's Galaxy S22 phones push Google Messages and the good news of RCS. And if you've been following Friday Night Tech Talk for a while, you'll know that Will and Mike and I have had a lot of conversations about RCS, and that Google's been trying to get people to adopt it for a long time. So the new Galaxy 22 phones ship with it as the default. So that's what we'll go over now. So it says now we need Apple on board. So let's see if I can go to read a view without getting kicked out. And there we go. So this was by Jay Peters a few days ago. A lot more people might be about to start using Rich Communication Services, RCS, the new messaging standard that has had a long and messy rollout, that's for sure, as Google's Messages app is the new messaging default for newer Samsung devices. While the Galaxy S21 lineup shipped with Samsung Messages by default last year in the US, 9 to 5 Google noticed its Galaxy S22 Plus review unit had Google Messages set as the default when set up from scratch. And that's the case with the Verge's Galaxy S22 Ultra review unit as well. Samsung confirmed that Google's app is the new default in a statement to The Verge. To create the best possible messaging experience for users with a richer, more engaging communication experience that is consistent across platforms, Samsung is now making Messages the default app for Galaxy S22 series users worldwide, giving them even better capabilities, spokesperson Jordan Guthman said. RCS offers many improvements over SMS texting, such as typing indicators, read receipts, and the ability to share higher resolution photos and larger files. That's a big deal because right now, up until now, nobody could share large files the way iOS could, but should be able to with this. But adoption in the US has taken years. Google has largely led the charge and even rolled out end-to-end encryption to its messaging app in June, which is great. But the big carriers have dragged their feet. While they agreed to replace SMS with RCS in 2019, we had to wait until 2021 for T-Mobile, AT&T, and Verizon to commit to making Google Messages the default messaging app for their Android phones. Samsung phones make up a significant amount of the Android phones sold in the US, so the switch to Google Messages should be a boom for RCS adoption. Now we just need Apple to get on the RCS train. We'll see, which Google would like too. So we'll stop that screen because I've got a follow-up to that story. And this one is on Fandroid. So I'm going to share the screen. And hopefully they'll explain to us why it's a big deal. So why does it matter that the Galaxy S22 is using Google Messages as the default? See if I can go on reader view. And good. It just says Andrew, no last name. Now that the Galaxy S22 lineup is in the hands of reviewers, there is one thing that is common across the board, and it's pretty exciting. For the first time, at least here in the US, Samsung has decided to use Google Messages as the default messaging and SMM app on its latest flagship devices. Previously, including phones like the Galaxy Z Fold 3 and Z Flip 3, which I have here, but the default messaging client has been Samsung's own Messages app. But now that RCS messaging has grown to the point where it's already being adopted by carriers, other phone makers, and Google is pushing it, Samsung opted to use Google's app instead of its own. Why does this matter? Well, for one, it goes to show that RCS via Google Messages has reached a point where Samsung doesn't need to try and force users to use its own app. As you no doubt have noticed recently, there's been a bit of a war brewing between the green bubble and the blue bubble users. Samsung integrating the Google Messages app means that you'll enjoy rich communication services, RCS, which includes support for things typing indicators, read receipts, and even the ability to identify when an iPhone user has reacted to a message. I didn't know that. Before then, Android phones have largely just relied on SMS and MMS, which are both extremely outdated and lack any of the flexibility offered by ICS or Apple's iMessage platform. Oh, and by the way, of course, the Pixel phones like my Pixel 6 Pro do use Google Messages, but I also use it on my Z Flip and pretty much all my Android phones. It works well, but what Eleanor and I have noticed lately, at least on the Pixels, is that when we send something to each other with the RCS being the default, sometimes it stalls and doesn't send right away. And if you tap it again, then it sends it as a regular text. So don't know what that's about. It doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. There is still one hurdle to jump through, and it's the biggest hurdle yet. if we as consumers truly want to have an equal playing field when it comes to messaging across devices, Apple needs to join the parade. I wouldn't hold my breath on that. As it stands, Apple's iMessage platform does not support nor rely on RCS in order to provide all of the extra features enjoyed by iPhone users. When you think about the fact that Samsung is the largest Android phone maker in the US, and it jumps aboard the RCS train, it will hopefully inevitably put a bit of pressure on Apple to properly support RCS. Even AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon have jumped aboard the RCS train, making the Google Messages app the default client on their Android phones. While Samsung Messages is still pre-installed as a secondary option behind Google Messages, you might want to stick with Google's app anyways. One of the largest reasons is because Google and Samsung worked on some new updates to the Messages app that would be exclusive to the S22. Guess I'll find out in a few weeks. One of the biggest features is the addition of auto-generating previews of YouTube videos that are sent over RCS. You'll be able to watch the video and control playback right from the Messages app, which is pretty cool, I think, without being taken into the actual YouTube app. It's just another example of what can happen when Samsung and Google work hand in hand on the project. So it sounds like they have high hopes. Getting Apple on board, I don't know that that's going to happen. Let's say Eleanor has to broadcast that out. Okay. Well, thank you. And thank you, Renz. And Mr. Mario, glad to have you here, brother. Glad to have you on board. Haven't seen you here in a while. Very happy to see you here. So, do you guys think that Apple's going to adopt RCS? I tend to doubt it, but I hope they do, of course. But we'll see. Anyway, on the Google side and the Android side, they think it's pretty exciting that Samsung is going with RCS. And I use RCS on everything, like I said, so we'll see what happens. So just wanted to start off with those two. As far as I know, no big phone releases this week, so I didn't have any phone news. I did look at TCL phones this week. I also looked at the OnePlus, that video that they did the other day about their TV and their new phone. And I kind of passed on that. So we'll see what happens. Some of you know when I pre-ordered my Galaxy S22 Plus, they had run out of stock on the 45-watt adapter. So I got an email from Samsung a little while ago saying the adapter was back in. So I sent them a message saying I wasn't able to get it as a perk as I should have on the day that I pre-ordered. Will I get it for free? I'm waiting for an answer. Just sent it out a little while ago. Meanwhile, I did find a 45-watt adapter at Walmart, which I ordered online, and for half the price of the Samsung. And I should have it in about a week and a half, long before I get the phone. So we'll see how that goes. I just figured it couldn't hurt to have that as a backup. So let's move on to some other stories. If you remember, I did a story last week or the week before, I think it was last week, that Zuckerberg and Facebook was saying that because the EU has changed their policy and won't let them store European users' data on US sites, they may have to shut down Facebook and Instagram in Europe. Now, I gather that was their big threat. So we now have a response from the EU. I don't think Mr. Zuckerberg's going to like it very much. Let's see. So what does Ren say? Ren says, I'll be waiting for the Pixel Fold. I need to stop saving now. I agree with you 100%. there, we resist that. My guess is we couldn't. So, all right, so sharing the screen. This was on a site called City AM. And Meta's threat to close down Facebook and Instagram in Europe backfires as EU leaders embrace shutdown. Life would be very good without. So let's take it into review. And these are the two gentlemen from the EU who actually responded. Germany's economy minister, Robert Habeck, speaking alongside his French colleague, France's minister, Bruno Le Maire. Life would be very good without Facebook. European leaders have embraced Meta's indirect warning to shut down its Facebook and Instagram operations across Europe if the social media giant is no longer able to process Europeans' data on U.S. servers. Last night, Germany's new economy minister, Robert Habeck, told reporters during a meeting in Paris, after I was hacked, I have lived without Facebook and Twitter for 4 years, and life has been fantastic. Speaking alongside his German colleague, French Prime Minister Bruno Le Maire added, I can confirm that life would be very good without Facebook and that we would live very well without Facebook. Understand that the European continent will resist and affirm its sovereignty. The two leaders commented on Meta's statement that if it's not given the option to transfer, store, and process data from its European users on US-based servers, Facebook and Instagram may be shut down across Europe. The social media giant's owner reportedly warned in its annual report that the key issue for Meta is the transit-related data transfers related via the so-called privacy shield and other model agreements that Meta uses or use to store data from European users on American servers. In a recent report to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, Meta warned that if a data transfer framework is not adopted and the company is no longer allowed to use the current model agreements or alternatives, the company will probably no longer be able to offer many of its most significant products and services, including Facebook and Instagram in the EU, according to various media reports. Sharing data between countries and regions is crucial for the provision of its services and targeted advertising, Meta stressed. The current agreements to enable data transfers are currently under heavy scrutiny in the EU. That's right. That's why a judge pulled the privacy shield. Therefore, it previously used a transatlantic data transfer framework called Privacy Shield as the legal basis to carry out these data transfers. However, this treaty was annulled by the European Court of Justice in July 2020 because of data protection violations, and I can understand that. Since then, the EU and the US did stress that they are working on a new or updated version of the treaty. When approached by CDAM, a spokesperson for Meta said, we have absolutely no desire and no plans to withdraw from Europe. I'll bet you don't. But the simple reality is that Meta and many other businesses, organizations, and services rely on data transfers between the EU and US in order to operate global services. We are closely monitoring the potential impact on our European operations as these developments progress. Like other companies, we have followed European rules and rely on standard contractual clauses and appropriate data safeguards to operate a global service, he added. Fundamentally, businesses need clear global rules to protect transatlantic data flows over the long term. Like more than 70 other companies across a wide range of industries, we are closely monitoring the potential impact on our European operations as these developments progress. So, a nice slap in the face for Meta from the EU. So we'll see how they respond. My guess would be that they're going to end up continuing Facebook and Instagram in Europe, But my guess is there's going to be some concessions from Meta if they want to continue to do that. You guys comment if you have an opinion. So moving on. My next headline says more Meta news. Oops. Losing my earbud. Sorry about that. Okay, Texas sues for illegally collecting biometric data. And this was on fortune.com. So they're getting hit from every possible way. I think that's because Facebook does a lot of illegal stuff. Okay, share screen. Okay, Texas sues Facebook parent Meta for allegedly collecting the most intimate of data of users. It's by Jonathan Vanayan. And let's go into review. Facebook parent Meta has another legal battle to deal with, this time involving the state of Texas. The Texas Attorney General filed a lawsuit on Monday against the social media giant, alleging that it had illegally collected biometric data and engaged in deceptive business practices. The lawsuit is similar to a previous facial recognition-related Facebook lawsuit involving the state of Illinois that Meta eventually settled in 2021 for $650 million. Pretty cheap, I'd say. In that lawsuit, Illinois alleged that Meta improperly collected user facial data without consent. Sounds like the same type of thing. In its suit, Texas alleged that Texas-based Facebook users were oblivious to the fact that Facebook, without their permission, was capturing biometric information from photos and videos that users had uploaded for the sole purpose of sharing with family and friends. Yeah, so that's pretty slimy. Facebook has, for over a decade, built an artificial intelligence empire on the backs of Texans by deceiving them while capturing their most intimate data, thereby putting their well-being, safety, and security at risk, the lawsuit said. A Meta spokesperson told Fortune in a statement that these claims are without merit and will be defended. We will defend ourselves vigorously. Yeah, good luck with that. Here are some highlights of the lawsuit. The lawsuit largely focuses on a now shuttered Facebook feature that lets users tag people in photos and videos, which help improve Meta's facial recognition technology. In 2019, amid intense criticism, Facebook said users would have to opt in to use the tagging feature. Yeah, good luck with that. Last year, the company shut down all of its facial recognition services. Well, obviously not. Texas lawyers allege that Facebook engaged in deceptive business practices by intentionally avoiding using the term biometric to describe the tagging feature. Of course they did, because it knew that doing so would scare people off from using the service, as it should. Something's up with Instagram. Texas lawyers allege that Facebook illegally captures users' biometric data through its Instagram photo and video sharing service. The lawsuit doesn't explain how it's done, but said that Facebook has been secretly subjecting all photos uploaded to Instagram to its facial recognition technology, with no way for Instagram users or non-users to know about it, let alone prevent Facebook from harvesting maps of their facial geometry. Okay, so they're saying they shut it down on Facebook, but if they left it open on Instagram and Facebook still has access to that data, what's the difference? Anyway, this allegation about Instagram is similar to a previous allegation made in a separate August 2020 lawsuit. That class action lawsuit filed by plaintiff Kelly Whalen in the California state court alleged that Meta improperly collects, stores, and profits from the biometric data of over 100 million Instagram users. And that's just in California, I guess. Texas wants Meta to pay $25,000 per violation. That's a lot of money of the state's biometric laws and $10,000 per violation of its deceptive business practices laws. In a press conference on Monday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton told reporters that Meta's proposed fines could total in the billions of dollars. And you probably know who I'm rooting for there. Okay, stop screen. Hey, Brian, glad to have you in here, brother. And as always, thank you very much, brother. Very, very kind of you. Okay. I'm going to move on. And this one's interesting for Facebook once again. And this was on CNBC. I'm going to share screen. Google plans privacy change similar to Apple's, which wiped $230 billion off Facebook's market cap. I remember they did that in one day. And this was from 2 days ago. Google, let's go to read a view. Okay. Let's see. How do I get into this cookies thing? I don't want that. Let's turn off review. I guess I'll do this one without review. Google on Wednesday announced it's adopting new privacy restrictions that will cut tracking across apps on its Android devices, following a similar move made by Apple last year that upended several firms' advertising practices. Google said it's developing new privacy-focused replacements for its advertising ID, a unique string of characters that identifies a user's device. The digital IDs in smartphones often help ad tech companies track and share information about consumers. I'm sure it does. So that's why it's there. The changes could affect big companies that have relied on tracking users across apps like Facebook parent Meta. Apple's adjustments hit Meta particularly hard, for example. Meta said earlier this month, Apple's privacy changes will decrease the social media company's sales this year by about $10 billion. That news contributed to wiping $232 billion from the company's market cap in a single day. I reported on that a couple of weeks ago, eventually pushing the total below the $600 billion line. Last June, Meta was worth more than $1 trillion. But while Meta fought against Apple's changes, which they lost, it voiced support for the way Google plans to implement its privacy tweaks. So I guess that's not going to hurt them as much. It is encouraging to see this long-term collaborative approach to privacy protective personalized advertising from Google. Graham Mudd, Vice President of Product Marketing, Sales and Business at Facebook, said on Twitter, "We look forward to continued work with them in the industry on privacy-enhancing tech through industry groups." Google said it will continue to support the current identifiers for the next 2 years. So this one even hurt Facebook for 2 years, which means other companies have time to implement changes. Apple was criticized by Facebook and other companies for rolling out its app tracking transparency feature, which reduces targeting capabilities by limiting advertisers from accessing an iPhone's user identifier. With that change, users were given a pop-up window that let them block apps from tracking the data for advertising purposes. I thought that was a great ad. And I stopped them from tracking mine as soon as it popped up. Google criticized Apple's approach in its blog post without naming the company. "We realize that other platforms have taken a different approach to ads privacy, bluntly restricting existing technology used by developers and advertisers. Google Android Vice President of Product Management, Security, and Privacy, Anthony Chavez, wrote in the blog post, "We believe that without first providing a privacy-preserving alternative path, such approaches can be ineffective and lead to worse outcomes for user privacy and developer business." So obviously, they're going to be a lot nicer about it. Focusing on privacy practices could help the tech giant get ahead of regulatory issues as lawmakers and consumers become more aware and concerned about their personal data. The company said it would work closely with regulators. So it sounds like it's not expected to hurt Facebook as much, and they have 2 years to get on board with it. So they should be okay. Just checking the comments. And I just killed my notes. See if I can pull them back up real quick. Okay. Okay. So I just thought this was kind of interesting since I have a Z Fold 3 and we're somewhat expecting a Pixel Fold at some point fairly soon, I guess. I just thought this was an interesting story. This one is on Phone Arena. And I'm going to share screen and see if I can get the reader view to work properly this time. Don't want that. Okay. Analysts expect high growth rates ahead for the foldable smartphone market. So looks promising to them. This is by Alan Friedman. Okay, go to reader view. Okay. Foldable smartphones are very much in their infancy. Samsung appears to be the leader right now with the Galaxy Z Fold 4 and Galaxy Z Flip 4, both expected to be released later this year, possibly in August or September. Samsung's two foldable models both serve different purposes. The Galaxy Z Fold series features an external screen, and when the device is open like a book, a larger tablet-sized screen is revealed. This is perfect for those working in the field who need both a phone-sized display and a larger screen. It is also great for those who like to find a comfortable place to sit down and stream video on a large display. 8.9 million foldable phones shipped last year for 148% year-over-year gain. Yeah, they're doing pretty well, I believe. The Galaxy Z Flip line is a pocketable device that flips open to become a 6.7-inch smartphone. I know I've showed this to you a few times, but yeah, there's the flip. So that's what it opened up. This I carry around with me at work all the time. I just find it easy to slip in and out of my pocket. I find it very handy, and it's fun to use. So this form factor is better for those who just want to be able to keep a powerful handset in their pockets until it is needed. Both foldables have their place in the world. And I've seen some videos where some people didn't think it was practical for a daily driver as your only, and I think it is. That's just my opinion. Samsung is the leading provider of foldables worldwide. Other phone manufacturers have released foldables, including Huawei. Huawei has released a foldable that opens from a 6.45-inch external display to an 8-inch tablet-sized screen. Let's see. Company also unveiled a foldable flip phone called the P50 Pocket. I don't know that one. Country-made Oppo has released a Find N foldable, and we still could see Google release the Pixel Fold. Yeah, the Find N foldable. A lot of people already have that. Seem to be saying good things about it. According to a freshly squeezed report from research firm Canalys, and I used to listen to a weekly podcast from their president, shipments of foldable smartphones are expected to grow at 53% compounded growth rate between 2021 and 2024. For that year, total shipments of foldables would reach 30 million units. I'd say that's pretty good. The CAGR for the period from 2019, when the first foldables were released, to 2024 is forecast to reach 122%. Led by Samsung, total foldable shipments reached 8.9 million units last year for a year-over-year increase of 148%. That compares to the 7% growth in overall phone shipments in 2021, revealing how important foldables are to the future of the smartphone industry. Runar, I don't know how to say this, I can't say that last name. Research analyst at Canalys said the key catalyst for foldable smartphones has been the booming use of large screen devices during the pandemic. As consumers are constantly looking for a better experience on their day-to-day mobile devices, the bar has now been set even higher by the productivity and entertainment experience on large screens. The analyst added, as the world continues to reopen, it brings new opportunities for smartphone vendors to provide products such as foldable smartphones that can fulfill consumers' needs and desires. Another Canalys analyst, Toby Zhu, notes that the foldable form factor helps the overall smartphone market because of its appeal to high-end users and early adopters. Zhu says that Android manufacturers in the premium sector of the market have been struggling with shipments in the premium end of the market, phones costing $800 or more, with shipments in this segment down 18%. So yeah, people are looking for cheaper phones unless you have a foldable or something very high-end. The analyst said that during the same time period, premium iOS models costing $800 or more have risen 68%. So if it's an iPhone, it'll still sell. Google and the major Android device vendors must double down on their investments in differentiated hardware and state-of-the-art user experiences to keep appealing to high-end customers, who notes. Canalys sees a 122% compounded annual growth rate for foldable phones for 2019 to 2024. Yet another Canalys research analyst, Amber Liu, points out that thanks to Samsung, the supply chain for foldables has developed over the last few years. While there are an increasing number of suppliers for foldable displays, hinges, and other key components, device vendors are also highlighting innovative engineering solutions and product designs for a better user experience while constantly pushing down prices. Yeah, I've read somewhere what the high-end foldables are going to go down by like $1,000 in the next year or two. We'll see. Amber also states that the foldable app ecosystem is still not optimal and that more investment is needed to develop a capable UI and improve the foldable ecosystem. I think Samsung's done a pretty good job with it. Liu says that many smartphone manufacturers are getting ready to dip their feet into the foldable smartphone waters as such devices become an important part of these firms' strategy to compete in the high-end market. As the years go by, the weight, thickness, and prices of foldables will drop, which will help these phones catch on with the public, driving growth of the sector. As a result, the leading players will start to flex their muscles in the ecosystem to leapfrog their competitors with advanced and differentiated experience, says Liu. Canalys sees the average selling price of foldless heroes dropping from $2,000 in 2019 to $1,000 by 2024. Let's hope that's true. So just thought that was an interesting story. So I would guess at some point we're all going to be at least trying out the foldables. I'm glad I waited for the Flip 3 because I absolutely love that phone. So Okay, I have one more story. And this one was interesting. Looks like Google's doing a little copying from iPhone. And this is on Android Authority. Google quietly adds iOS-like feature to Android 12 Pixel launcher. If you've ever found yourself installing a ton of apps at once, this will be useful, by C. Scott Brown. So let's go into reading, review. Okay, so there you can see it actually shows you when it's installing, just like iOS does. Google Pixel phones suddenly have a new Android 12 install icons feature. Borrowed from iOS, the feature gives visual indications of install statuses for apps on the home screen. The subtle visual tweak could be part of Google's Play as you download feature. Famously, iPhones don't have app drawers. When you download an app from the Apple App Store, an icon heads directly to your home screen or the recently added folder there. Meanwhile, the new App Store icon visually changes as it goes through the install process. Android phones, though, have app drawers, so users need to elect to have apps appear on the home screen when downloaded. If you have this feature turned on for your Pixel phone, you might have noticed some subtle tweaks to how it works. Google quietly pushed out a new Android 12 install icon signifier that gives you a visual indication of an app's install process. Interestingly, this feature is borrowed from iOS. Although it doesn't work exactly the same, it's pretty close, I'd say. It tells you when an app is downloading and gives a circular progress bar to show its progress. It then does the same for the installation procedure before finally settling the icon in its spot on your home screen. It's very similar to the App Store process. If we go back to my page, you can see here, starts installing, shows you it's installing, and then it finishes installing. So what's going on with this new Android 12 install icon signifier? According to Michel Rahman on Twitter, this could be part of Google's Play as you download feature, though they're not sure about this. This feature gives you the ability to start playing a game before it completely finishes downloading. This is helpful when the game you're downloading has a large file size and you're on a slow connection. Yeah, like if you did Asphalt 9, yeah, I could see where that would be useful because that takes forever. A phone's launcher would need to tap into this feature to show the progress circle shown on the screenshots above. If Rahman is correct, the Pixel launcher now does that on Android 12. If that's true, it would be up to OEMs and third-party launcher apps to do the same if they want this feature on board. So everybody would have to do it on their own. However, it's also possible Rahman is mistaken and this is something else. This new Android 12 install icon signifier works for non-game apps and you can't open the app game while it's downloading. So it could be something else unrelated to Play as you download, even if it looks similar. Either way, this is an interesting new feature and could be helpful for folks installing a lot of apps at once. So just thought it was interesting, and to me, it's a welcome addition because, yeah, it's much nicer to be able to see it as it's installing, especially if it's a very large app. So just interesting that they both keep borrowing from each other. So none of the other guys came in tonight. I was very happy that Mark came in last week. So I'm going to move on to glowing rectangles and just tell you guys about glowing rectangles as we do every week. I'll share the screen. So if you want to get some exposure for your own videos, for your own blog, or for anybody else, all you have to do is paste it into glowing rectangles. It's on Reddit. Let's clear that away so you can actually see that. So on reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles. This was started by some gadget guy, Juan Bagnell, and anybody can post here and get a little more exposure. Also, if you click top, you can upvote or downvote. I don't think many people downvote though. Whatever posts people have put up for the day, like this with cheapest bone conduction headphones. This has gotten 3 upvotes today, so that's at the top. Second one is always an ad. Okay, that's a Samsung ad. And 2 upvotes, Soundpeach Mini Pro review. That was posted by Juan. And from here to there, from there to here and beyond, I'll leave it in Antech. That was on Antech.com. That's also got 2 votes. So anyway, if you want a little exposure or to give somebody exposure, just go to reddit.com/r/glowing rectangles, add it into today's stories, see if people upvoted, but either way, they'll get a little more exposure and maybe some more followers. So tell you about that every week, just so you're aware of it. Let's put this back. Any more comments? Okay. So no more comments. And that's all I've got for this week. And none of the other guys come in, so it's going to be another short week. And, Renz, thank you so very much, as always. Thanks, Renz. Yes, I plan to have a happy birthday. Alan, you're coming in just as I'm wrapping up. Anyway, a short week today. Glad to see you here. Jersey City well represented. I like that. All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. I hope everybody has a very, very blessed weekend. Understandable, Alan. You're a little bit busy. Oh, Brian, thanks again. Thank you so very much. Really, really appreciate it. And Alan says, take care, everyone. I don't know if Team 100's on tonight, but if they are, they usually show up at 10 o'clock. I think last week they might have been on at 9 o'clock. Anyway, check out Team 100 whenever you get a chance. Hey, Don, glad you were here. All right, everybody, have a great weekend. Hope you have a very blessed weekend. Stay safe. Try to keep warm if it's cold where you are. And we will see you next week.